Hello BookTube, welcome back to my 2025 library tour. In this episode, the beginning of a new bookcase, although we're still doing history. So the first few books on this top shelf are Texas history, starting with Lone Star Nation, the epic story of the battle for Texas independence by H.W. Brands. So this is a history of the Texas War of Independence. I also have Big Wonderful Thing, A History of Texas by Stephen Harrigan. This is a massive history of the state of Texas, and it is history as it should be written. This book is serious and humorous and just an amazing reading experience. An earlier history of Texas is Rough Country, How Texas Became America's Most Powerful Bible Belt State by Robert Buthnow. Have not gotten to this yet. Unsettled Land from Revolution to Republic, The Struggle for Texas by Sam W. Haynes. So this is a history of American colonization or immigration to Texas, and that in those colonists' eventual rebellion against Mexico and independence and joining the United States, ending with the Mexican-American War. Pretty good. Moving away from Texas, I have some Napoleonic history, starting with a biography of the man himself, Napoleon, A Life by Andrew Roberts. Have not gotten around to this yet. I have read The Napoleonic Wars, A Global History by Alexander Mikaberidze. So this is a massive history of the Napoleonic Wars with a special focus on the global aspects of the war. Not just in Europe, but in Asia and Africa and in the Americas as well. Really good. I have not read The War of Wars, The Epic Struggle Between Britain and France, 1789 to 1815 by Robert Harvey. Nor have I read Rights of Peace, The Fall of Napoleon and the Congress of Vienna by Adam Zamoyski. Moving away from Napoleon, Bad Gays, A Homosexual History by Hugh Lemmy and Ben Miller. This is the book form of some episodes of the podcast Bad Gays, hosted by Hugh Lemmy and Ben Miller. Was not particularly fond of this book. It's basically a collection of short biographies of various bad gays. The next few books are about the Nile River, starting with The Nile by Emil Ludwig. So this is an old history of the Nile River. I also have River of the Gods, Genius, Courage, and Betrayal in the Search for the Source of the Nile by Candace Millard. Tried to read this last year and did not get on with it all that much. I also have Explorers of the Nile, The Triumph and Tragedy of a Great Victorian Adventure by Tim Gill, which I have not gotten to. Moving on to 20th century Chinese history, I have two books by Yang Jixing, starting with Tombstone, The Great Chinese Famine, 1958 to 1962. So this is a history of the Chinese famine, and it looks at it from a province by province level of what happened, the various political fights that went on to try to ameliorate the famine. Really good book, very dense, very sourced. The World Turned Upside Down, A History of the Chinese Cultural Revolution, also by Yang Jixing. So this book takes a similar approach that Tombstone did to the Cultural Revolution, and it is amazing. I really enjoyed both of them. Sticking with 20th century Chinese history, Maoism, A Global History by Julia Lovell. So this is a study of Maoism's influence, not just in China, but also in Indonesia, in Latin America, in Europe, and all around the world. Really good. I quite enjoyed it when I read it. And it won the Kindle History Prize about 5 or 6 years ago, I think. Moving on, I have A History of Venice by John Julius Norwich, which I have not gotten around to yet. And I have a number of other Venice books somewhere around here. We'll see eventually. The next few books are World War II, Bloodlands, Europe Between Hitler and Stalin by Timothy Snyder. Have not gotten around to this yet. I'll really need to one of these days. The Rising Sun, The Decline and Fall of the Japanese Empire, 1936 to 1945 by John Toland. This is the second volume. Have not gotten to it yet. Picked it up from a library book sale one day, a few years ago. Sticking with the War in the Pacific, Eagle Against the Sun by The American War with Japan by Ronald H. Spector. Have not gotten to this one yet either. The Fall of Imperial China by Frederick Wakeman Jr. Not gotten to this yet. I've had this for a few years and just have never gotten around to it. American Girls in Red Russia, Chasing the Soviet Dream by Julie L. Mickenberg. Have not gotten around to this yet either. The Pharaoh's Treasure, The Origin of Paper and the Rise of Western Civilization by John Godet. Have not gotten around to this. Back to American history with American Empire by A.G. Hopkins. So this is a massive look at the American Empire that I have not gotten around to yet. I really need to at some point. I have managed to read These Truths, A History of the United States by Joel Lepore. This is a really good one-volume history of the United States. I quite enjoyed it. Although it did need a Bell redemption to read it. And finally for this shelf, Indivisible. Daniel Webster and the Birth of American Nationalism by Joel Richard Paul. So this is a history of the political career of Daniel Webster. I did not get on with this book at all. It really disappointed me. So that was the top shelf of this new bookcase. I'll be back tomorrow with the second shelf. So until then, BookTube, thank you, have a great evening, and stay safe.